Hold on. What the heck? Hold on. Here we go. What the heck? Come on. Ay, ay, ay. Technology. How about that? Let's try this again. You know we can't start the show without the theme song.
Another Monday Night Raw in the ring they clash. Smackdown Friday night body slam with the crash. The casual guy talking don't let it pass. He spits the truth in the wrestling podcast bash. From the top ropes they die for the belt defense. Blood, sweat, and tears they reap what they spend. In the square circle lives twist and then listen to the tales, the casual guys intense. From the top ropes they die for the belt defense. Blood, sweat, and tears they reap what they spend. In the square circle lives twist and then listen to the tales, the casual guys intent. Tune in to now, hear the Raw show, WrestleMania, wrestling Wasteland. Heroes fall, villains rise and dance the violent dance. Chairs, tables, ladders, stakes, the audience in a trance.
All right.
The casual
That's
guy
better.
breaks it down,
Very
chance by
old.
chance. He peels back the curtain, gives secrets a glance. Podcast
Welcome back to another episode of The Casual Guy Cast, where we're going to talk a little bit about Monday Night Raw as well as the previous SmackDown last week. If you were the one person who is maybe viewing the stream on Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, basically my whole episode got yanked off the air. Shout out to YouTube and their wonderful AI that flagged my content and it got taken down. That's okay. We will press forward. So Sunday I did a full review of Friday Night SmackDown from last week. So with Raw happening last night, I think it's maybe best if we sort of move on. I'll probably hit a little bit on Friday Night SmackDown, but I think we just gotta keep it pushing, keep moving forward. Um, so yeah, so that's what happened. I apologize for all of those of you who are just waiting with bated breath for the next episode to come out. Um, it's gone. It's in the cloud or whatever it is. Um, but thank you for being here right now. Um, kind of going. Let's start with SmackDown first. Grayson Waller effect comes out, does his podcast with Austin Theory, of course. Here comes Cody. He was the guest on the show, um, and really they sort of like interrupted Cody every chance that they got. Said that he's egotistical, all this sort of stuff, and then they show a montage of KO betraying everyone that he's ever been friends with in the past in order to gain a title. And then here comes KO to defend himself. Says every one of those guys had it coming to him except for Kofi, but it didn't put KO in a good light. And I think they're still trying to play this KO's going to turn on you thing. That they start sort of hitting pretty hard with that storyline. I'm still not convinced that KO won't turn on Cody. Um, like I've said before, he's wearing like the red KO shirt. So that means he's evil, or at least they're hinting towards that. But we also had a little bit of drama on Monday night as well. So we'll hit that as we get later on. More from SmackDown, LA Knight versus Santos Escobar. Quick story short here, LA Knight retains the title. Legado del Fantasma got kicked out in the beginning of the match. Start of the match, they jumped LA Knight before the match started. So the ref tosses, uh, Los Lotharios, as they were called. Um, and So they toss all of Legado del Fantasma out of the ring. And it's just LA Knight and Santos Escobar. LA Knight retains. And I think they had a good little feud here with LA Knight and Santos, and they might revisit it still. Um, Maybe mainly more at Bash in Berlin. We'll see. Um, but I think we're starting to move on from this. I think it was a good way to like break LA Knight into a title defense, and have it seem legit. But I think we all knew LA Knight isn't gonna lose this belt for a little bit. Um, and Santos kind of got into it with Baron Corbin there after the match. So maybe that's the more likely feud that moves for Santos. But we'll see. Uh, Later on in the evening, LA Knight came out and issued an open challenge to anyone that wants to face him at Bash in Berlin. And so we still don't know who LA Knight will be facing. Maybe we'll find out this Friday, but there's a part of me that kind of hopes that they make it like a little bit of a surprise in a sense. So we'll see. Um, After that, you had Unholy Union, Blair Davenport versus Jade, Bianca, and Naomi. This is a prelude to the tag match that they have coming up at Bash in Berlin. Um, Jade, Bianca, and Naomi win this, with Naomi getting the pin. But maybe this sets up, uh, I think, another Unholy Union win at Bash in Berlin. I feel like that would be a little bit more of a shocker for Unholy Union to defeat Jade and Bianca. Um, so I feel like they're setting us up. Uh, they had a little flashback during SmackDown that was like match, the first match ever in Germany, and they flashed the European Championship. And I've talked about this before, but I wish that they would start bringing back some of these older belts that have gone by the wayside. I'd love to see the European, maybe the Cruiserweight. I know they just had that not until too long ago. But maybe my favorite, the TV title. Shout out to Disco Inferno, maybe the greatest TV champion in history. But I'd love to see him start to bring back some of these older belts. I think you could switch some of them between NXT as well. But I think you just got so much talent going on in the WWE right now without belts to support some of these rivalries. And I know. Fast forward to last night, we had some Andrade and um, Carmelo Hayes stuff going on, and it looks like that might be the three-way match that we see LA Knight in at Bash in Berlin um, for the U.S. Championship. But I think you just like a little bit of a log jam with some of the talent that they have, and um, so I think it could make things a little bit more exciting. Uh, I guess maybe one of the bigger storylines, obviously, we had the new bloodline come back out. Jacob Fatu gives up his tag team belt to Tonga Loa, um, because Solo needs Jacob Fatu to be his enforcer, and he can't hold the tag belt while he's going to be the enforcer for Solo. So Jacob Fatu gives that up, and they end up facing Street Profits. Now, this is a really good match in my opinion. I liked it. It's really cool. I think Street Profits have always had like a good in ring presence. Maybe they don't get as much mic work as some of the other ones, but I think they sort of deserve a little push right now, to be in contention for the tag titles. Montez Ford had one of the coolest moves I've seen. he springboarded himself over the corner turnbuckle and outside of the ring and took out Bloodline. That was a really cool move, and so that was really fun to watch. But I think they deserve it. They deserve a little push. Um, but yeah, I think here's the thing that uh, I get hung up on with the new Bloodline is that you've got one guy in a group of four that he's the only person holding the mic, and Solo's mic skills are not great, right? I don't mean that as like a slam or anything to him, but no pun intended. But he's just not there on the mic. He needs a little bit more practice, and so, when I think about like the great factions, DX is probably my favorite faction of all time, or at least one of them. But the cool thing about DX is like they had a lot of guys in the stable that could do mic work. You know, as soon as "Dun-dun-dun-dun," and you knew Road Dogg was going to hit the mic, like before they even got to the ring. He's coming out with the mic in his hand, talking. Billy Gunn didn't have a ton of mic work, but I think Road Dogg made up for that. And even X Pac. He had some mic presence as well. Obviously, Shawn Michaels and Triple H were great on the mic, and you just don't have that. Even with the old bloodline, maybe you had a little bit with Jay, but maybe even less so with Jimmy. And Roman didn't talk a ton either. It was a lot of Paul Heyman. So um, they need to do something with the new bloodline and give them a little bit more mic presence. I mean, that's what really buys people into characters or makes them hate you, whatever it is. And they just don't have that, and so it comes off kind of lame. Um, there were chants when uh, Jacob Fatu passed on the uh, the tag team belt to Tongaloa, and people were chanting like "You can't wrestle," and that's not great. Um, whether it's warranted or not, I don't necessarily disagree that it hasn't been shown so far in his stint with the main roster, but um, that's not good when you got the whole crowd chanting "You can't wrestle" to a guy, especially being new. I think it's kind of rough, but um, whatever. Uh, After that, you lead into a Me Chin promo um, where she's like in this smash room with like a busted bat and she's breaking printers and uh, old Nokia and razor phones and it was kind of corny. Like she made a comment like, "Oh, you're too fat. You'll never make it." Meanwhile, I think Me Chin's probably 105 pounds. So like, the promo itself was not my favorite, but this is kind of leading into Meechin's match against Nia Jax. Now, they go from this promo with Meechin straight into a locker room shot of Nia Jax, Tiffy, and Pretty Deadly. And, Nia's still hung up that Meechin ruined her title celebration in the previous week, and she broke her crown. And Tiffy and Pretty Deadly, you guys need to fix it. Um, and so they go and do that. Then they sort of pan over a little bit, and you see Chelsea Green and Piper Niven around the corner. And Chelsea's, talking about how it's just a matter of time before Tacky Time cashes in on Naya and stabs her in the back and uses her Money in the Bank briefcase to take the title off of Naya. This is maybe my favorite part of the night. It's no secret. I'm a huge Chelsea Green fan. I also love Tiffy, and I think that whole group is starting to win me over a little bit, maybe more with Naya and Pretty Deadly. I really liked Pretty Deadly, the musical, the past week. So Um, you know, here's I guess my bold prediction or uh hopeful storyline that could happen is maybe Tiffy, Pretty Deadly, Chelsea, and Piper are all in cahoots, and it's all a plan to backstab Nia, get the title off of her, and I think Tiffy uh, could take the title from her and sort of be the leader of this new faction. They all sort of have this same aesthetic, maybe like the same, nah, not like storyline, but um, I guess Tiffy and Chelsea are sort of this like prissy character, whatever it is. Um, and so I think it could really work well together with the addition of Pretty Deadly. It's like a total Gossip Girl storyline. And what's funny is that right after that, they go to a commercial break, and there was a Gossip Girl commercial that ran as I was typing notes about this show. So who knows? I don't know. I really would love to see like a Chelsea Green um, Tiffy time sort of rivalry start to develop a little bit more, especially if one of them has the title. I think that could make it more interesting. Um, but we're all Chelsea over here, Team Chelsea. Uh, Kind of like to close out the night, we finally had the tag match between Cody and KO versus A Town Down Under. Um, and my initial thoughts going into this is like, this is the night that KO is going to turn on Cody. And uh, like pre-match KO saying, "You don't really believe that stuff, do you?" And they just keep piling on with this, "Oh, KO's never gonna betray you," sort of thing. And I felt like last Friday night was maybe the night that they would finally pull the trigger on there. And who knows? Maybe they won't, but I think they will. Someone brought up, that I saw, what if Cody turned heel on KO? And I don't really know how that works. I think it would take a lot of work, and I don't know how believable it would be if Cody just flipped heel out of nowhere without really any provocation. That seems a little weird to me. Um, you know, Cody and KO win the match. That's whatever. The funniest part of this whole thing was as Austin Theory and Grayson Waller were walking out, Grayson Waller pulled a fan sign out of the audience and like totally shredded it, and then he threw it back into the audience. Um, and I thought that was great. Like A Town Down Under are heels, and what do you got to do with heels? You got to make people hate you. People dislike A Town Down Under, but they don't hate them yet. We haven't been given any reason to truly hate these guys. Yeah, we don't like them. They're, you know, bad guys or whatever. Um, but I think these guys got the talent. I think they would be a cool duo to stick with each other for a little bit and really dig into this um, sort of sort of heel persona. But I think you got to go all in with these guys, and they got to do something really evil. But tearing up a Signs fan and throwing it back at him, I think that's a really good start, especially for the fan whose sign that was. So I think those guys got a ton of talent, but I think it's time to move them to like a super heel um, sort of thing. All right. That's all I got for SmackDown. Let's move into Raw a little bit, shall we? Um, Also, something I saw today, it's not necessarily related to Raw, but the WWE Performance Center is moving to Las Vegas. Obviously, you've got the TKO stuff there. UFC is all based out of Vegas as well. So I think it makes sense from a business perspective to move everyone to one place. But um, I think Orlando's been home to those guys for a long time, so it might be a little bit weird, if you're on the roster that like, hey, maybe even more like the NXT group, um, like, hey, we're all moving to Vegas now, like complete other side of the country. Not that that's a bad thing, but so I think a lot of those wrestlers have roots in Florida, or at least have planted roots there. So that could be weird. Um, so Raw. First off, Judgment Day opens the show. They go LWO versus Judgment Day. Um, Again, we're going back to the well with Ray versus Dominic Mysterio. Um, not that that rivalry's ever gone away, but it's been pretty dormant for the last 6, 9 months, whatever it is. Um, so maybe we're revisiting, maybe it's a one-off. I don't know. And say what you want about JD McDonough, but that dude can wrestle. I know they like to call him and tease him as the bobblehead and whatever, but that dude's got some skills, man. And he might not have the best build in the WWE, but he can pull off some moves. So some really good DDTs in this match. I thought it reminded me of like the old school Rock when he hit that DDT and like people would go like vertical in the air when their head hit the mat. That was great to see. Um, Wild from LWO hit a springboard into the Judgment Day that was also crazy, kind of reminiscent of Montez Ford on Friday night. But yeah, those guys came out and showed off. We haven't really heard much from LWO, especially like Dragon Lee, and they gave Dragon Lee a big push. Maybe 6 months ago, whatever it is, but he needs that like bigger push. He needs to be sort of looked at as like the next Rey Mysterio. He's got to earn it too, but the dude's got all the tools in the box to do that. And so I think he needs that push again. Um, he reminds me of Ultimo Dragon. If you ever watched like the old CW days, they had a lot of lucha libre in WCW back in the '90s and early 2000s, and he reminds me a lot of like Ultimo Dragon. Just his look and some of the moves he pulls off. So um, the results of this match, Judgment Day ends up winning, and then here come the Terror Twins to scare off Judgment Day, which they did. And I thought it was just kind of weird that LWO completely disappeared as soon as the Terror Twins came into the ring. They just totally ran off and disappeared. But once again, we're kind of setting up Fashion Berlin here with this. Match and with the Terror Twins interrupting there at the end. Um, you had a match between Pure Fusion Collective versus Damage Control. I've been a big advocate for Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. I am not an advocate of this name, Pure Fusion Collective. It just sounds weird and kind of goofy to me. I don't love it, but I think the look that they have going is more in line with what kind of characters they are. Um, so I'm behind it, but if there's ever an opportunity in the future for them to change their name, please change it. Um, After that, we had a Drew McIntyre segment. Um, and and so Drew comes out, he starts going on the mic, getting at CM Punk. But if you were on Instagram at that moment, which I happened to be, you would have noticed that CM Punk was live streaming from a blacked out place. Like you couldn't see him at all, but he was live streaming on Instagram while Drew was talking. You could hear Drew in the background. So, of course, what do you think's going to happen next? Here comes CM Punk from underneath the ring. Um, with the his strap that they're gonna have the strap match here at Bash in Berlin. And then security rushes out. Drew gets whooped. Starts beating up on security, and Drew retreats. Um, you know, I don't know where to go. I like this rivalry between Drew and CM Punk, but I think, like I said last episode, that I'm not done with this feud. But after last night, maybe I am a little bit. I think we got to do something to mix it up. We need another title involved here. Maybe they put this on the back burner for a little bit. This rivalry after Bash in Berlin. Maybe they sort of let it cool for a little bit, and it resurfaces later in the year or even earlier next year. I just think at a certain point, one of them has to hold a belt and they have to fight each other for this to be like a bigger rivalry than it currently is. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what happens at Bash in Berlin. I think I could see it going either way, but I think there has to be some sort of finale now at this point, and maybe this is it. But beyond this, I think it might be time for these guys to sort of go separate ways, get in a different direction with the rivalry. Um, Pat McAfee was not present last night, and I think he's only got next Monday night on top of Bash in Berlin. That he'll be with the WWE for a few months as college football's going. But how much do we miss Pat McAfee? How much did you miss him last night on the mic? There were certain points, and I haven't always been like the biggest Pat McAfee guy, but I will say he's growing on me, and he is sort of that king to JR. If Michael Cole's the new JR, he did a good job of being the sort of the king and wild, but in his own style. And so, yes, Pat, I'll admit it. I miss you. Miss you on the show, man. So hopefully the college football season is over soon. I know that might upset some of you, but I want that guy back behind the desk. Um, you had your number one contender tourney for the IC belt, and this was a three-way match, one of four, which will take place at least in the first round for it. And it consisted of Jay Uso, Kofi Kingston, and Karrion Cross. Um, there was I was maybe a little harsh on Karrion Cross last week when he missed a couple of bumps, in my opinion. And unfortunately, the camera was right on him and Kofi as Karrion was outside the ring. Kofi did this sort of like drop kick to knock him off the edge of the ring, and the camera angle did not help the cause here. And I just like some of these guys taking bumps. They're not selling it, and I'm not blaming Karrion Cross or Kofi for it, but there was a mile of space in between Kofi's foot and Karrion's face. Um, maybe that's an editor thing too. Could throw it on the camera crew, but either way, um, little things like that are kind of like ugh. Um, Jay ended up winning this match, and honestly, like he was maybe the last person I saw winning this match, and I get it. Like he's probably the most likely to be able to compete with Braun Breaker, or the most believable. So, do I think it'll end up being Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker? Probably. Um, but I was thinking that we might see a Kofi Kingston win. Um, and also a Xavier Woods later in the evening, to see those two sort of face off for the number one contender and build a little more drama with the New Day stuff that's going on. But we didn't get that. Um, we got Jey Uso, which is fine. It's great. I do think this is a great belt for Jey Uso to go for. because I don't think, at least for the moment, anyone's considering him, a universal heavyweight contender at this time. Um, he had some Gunther and Randy promos. Randy did uh, come out at a certain point. They just keep building it, right? Gunther's in Germany and Belgium right now, living it up in the homeland. And so, Randy comes out, gets on the mic for a little while, and just a little more build for the match that's going to be this weekend. But not a lot to report there. Finally, we got the Braun Strowman versus Big Bronson Reed match. Um, and really, besides the match that's in the ring, towards the end, Bronson Reed starts to walk away from the ring. And Braun Strowman tries to rope him back in, and Bronson hits him a couple times and stuns him. So he keeps walking towards the back. And then Bronson Reed goes behind the curtains, grabs a trash can, and he's waiting for Braun Strowman, right? Like, this is a setup. This is the trap. Um, and so here comes Braun Strowman through the curtains to try and chase after Bronson Reed. He gets hit with the trash can. Then it moves itself, the fight, to the street, to the parking lot, where it turns into a total street match with with it ending with Bronson Reed jumping off of like a retaining wall on, you know, you've got Braun Strowman laid out on top of a 20-year-old Lincoln or Cadillac or whatever it was. I don't remember. He's on the roof of the car, laid out, and Bronson Reed does his famous splash. Um, on top of Braun Strowman, on top of the car. The car roof caves in. There was like this small little like spark from the rear view mirror inside the vehicle, and then like the engine starts smoking for some reason. I'm not sure. I get it. It's to add to the effect and all that stuff, but it was kind of funny. I don't know if they're going for like a super realistic effect or a little bit of chuckle factor there, but it made me laugh, and it was cool to watch. So shout out to those guys. I thought they had a good match, and I thought the street element was fun. You don't get a lot of those sort of street fights these days, whereas in 20 something plus years ago, maybe it was overload on the street match and extreme matches and stuff. So it's cool to revisit that. I enjoy it. After that, you had the second leg of the number one contender tourney for the IC belt, and this was between The Miz, Pete Dunne, and Xavier Woods. This is a pretty good match. There wasn't anything too crazy, not any like super crazy moves or anything like that. Um, but I thought the timing was great, and I thought they sold all the bumps in I thought they all those guys did a really good job during the match. Pete Dunne ends up winning this one. I like this result. I think this gives Dunne some clout. He's been feuding with Sheamus obviously lately. I think that adds to the clout, and I think they're trying to find a way to get Pete Dunne out of the shadows of the Brawling Brutes, bring him more into a solo spotlight. Again, I think this dude can wrestle. I think he's pretty good. We need a little more mic work for this guy in order to sell it, is him being, maybe more of a, he's a mid-card draw, but, like, maybe he could be a little bit more than that. So I like what they're doing with Pete Dunne. Keep it up. Keep the more established guys is, like, his target to go after. Eventually, he'll move on uh, from Sheamus, and, I'd like to see them carry this momentum with Pete Dunne. He seems like a pretty good fit here. Um, Question about Braun Breaker's tan. Um, is he even remotely close to that tan in real life? And it's not so much his body, because you see a dude like Chad Gable. who is super tan, but it just seems like in the face, Braun Breaker's tan is so intense. It's almost distracting for me. Um, but you know, it's not my body, not my not my place, I suppose. And then we finished the night out with Chad Gable versus Uncle Howdy. This is Uncle Howdy's and maybe Bo Dallas's first actual in ring appearance in a couple years. Um, and just sort of my one of my favorite parts of the match was that Uncle Howdy busted out the mandible claw, and that was awesome. Shout out to our boy Mankind Mick Foley. I haven't seen anyone use that, and so it was a cool ode to Mick by throwing out the mandible claw. Um, Towards the end of the match, American Made ends up ganging up on Uncle Howdy, and what do you think is gonna happen? Right? Like, you guys are setting yourselves up for this. Of course, the lights start flickering, you hear the noises, and here comes the smoke. Here comes Wyatt Six to clean up. And they do what they always do to American Made. So that kind of wrapped it up. Obviously, not a ton going on with SmackDown and Raw in the last week, in my opinion. But I think that's understandable considering that we've got Bash in Berlin coming up. A lot of maybe the main Carters are already over there or working their way over there doing, little house shows and stuff like that in Germany. Um, so I would expect an exciting Friday night SmackDown this week, followed up by a great Bash in Berlin. I wanted to get this show out of the way, sort of the recaps. Obviously, Friday's show got wiped, and I wanted to do another Monday show. I was planning on doing that with our buddy Ryan from Sacktown. Um, he's likely going to join us this week. If he can't make it or whatever, that's cool. We'll preview the next. We'll preview the next PLE with Ryan when we can make it work. So hopefully we will have another episode before Bash in Berlin, probably before SmackDown. So I'm excited for it. So stay tuned. We will have another episode before Bash in Berlin with some predictions and things like that. So thank you for tuning in today. And, I will see you later this week. But for now, toodles.
With the crash, the casual guy talking, don't let it pass. He spits the truth in the wrestling podcast bash. From the top ropes, they dive for the belt that bends. Blood, sweat, and tears, they reap what they spin. In the square circle, lives twist and then listen to the tales, the casual guy's intense. From the top ropes, they dive for the belt that bends. Blood, sweat, and tears, they reap what they spend. In the squared circle, live life, twist, and then listen to the tales, the casual guy's intent. Tune in to now, hear the rush out, WrestleMania, wrestling wait for it. Heroes fall, villains rise, they dance the violent dance. Chairs, tables, ladders, stakes, the audience in a trance. Casual guy breaks it down chance by chance. He peels back the curtain, gives secrets a glance. Podcast waves reverberate like a count. Each move, each fight, not just for the clout. Standing tall in chaos, what it's all about. The casual guy tells it raw, no doubt. Battles, unending tales, flashing lights, roaring crowd, no trumped up sales. Beyond the scripted saga, reality prevails. In the casual guy's realm, the truth never fails. Cast waves reverberate like a count. Each move, each fight, not just for the clout. Standing tall in chaos, what it's all about. The casual guy tells it raw, no doubt. Casual guy tells it raw, no doubt. Casual guy tells it raw, no doubt. Bone-crushing battles and unending tales. Flashing lights, roaring crowd, no trumped-up sails. Beyond the scripted saga, reality prevails. In the casual guy's realm, the truth never fails.